From a character named after a critic who hated the writer's previous work to a Christmas movie dumped in March, The Ref has more strange stories than most holiday films combined. This dark comedy about a burglar trapped with the world's worst family hides bizarre production secrets, casting surprises, and one of the most awkward three-picture deals in Hollywood history. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about. The Ref. Fact 1. Petty screenwriter revenge. Hollywood grudges can last for years, and screenwriter Richard LaGravenese proved this with The Ref. When creating the character of a sleazy military academy officer being blackmailed with compromising photographs, LaGravenese decided to name him Siskel, after film critic Gene Siskel. This wasn't an accident or coincidence. It was deliberate revenge. 2 years earlier, ahead of the 1992 Academy Awards, Siskel and his co-host Roger Ebert ran a pre-Oscars special discussing that year's nominees. During the broadcast, Siskel declared that Terry Gilliam's The Fisher King, written by LaGravenese, was among the least deserving nominees in any category. He told the Los Angeles Times that he thought the screenplay was overwrought. For a screenwriter who had just received his first Oscar nomination, hearing a nationally recognized critic dismiss your work on television clearly stung. So when LaGravenese co-wrote The Ref, he seized the opportunity for payback. The character of Siskel is portrayed as a weak-willed philanderer who gets caught consorting with topless dancers. The teenage son of the main characters blackmails him with incriminating photographs throughout the film. J.K. Simmons played the role in what would become his theatrical film debut. LaGravenese later confirmed through a publicist that naming the character Siskel was intentional revenge for the critics' harsh words about The Fisher King. It's the kind of petty Hollywood revenge that's oddly satisfying. The real Gene Siskel eventually learned about the name choice and took it surprisingly well, though he admitted he thought it was a strange form of revenge and wondered if hearing his name repeatedly might distract audiences from the movie itself. Fact 2. Siskel's unexpected discovery. Gene Siskel had no idea he'd been immortalized as a sleazy character in The Ref until he sat down to watch it. Despite being one half of America's most famous movie critic duo, Siskel wasn't warned in advance about LaGravenese's revenge plot. He discovered the tribute to himself the same way any regular moviegoer would, by attending a press screening of the film in 1994. Imagine sitting in a darkened theater, watching a new comedy, when suddenly you hear your own name coming from the screen over and over. That's exactly what happened to Siskel. The character appears multiple times throughout the film, and each time someone says his name, the real Siskel had to process the fact that a screenwriter had named a blackmailed philanderer after him. According to reports in the Los Angeles Times, Siskel had no idea why LaGravenese would harbor any ill will toward him until the writer confirmed through a publicist that it was revenge for Siskel's comments about The Fisher King. To his credit, Siskel handled the situation with remarkable grace and humor. He told reporters that he thought it was a strange form of revenge, and he questioned whether it was the most effective form of protest. He even speculated that LaGravenese might have sabotaged his own scenes by causing audiences to suspend their disbelief, bringing the reality of a film critic's name into what should be a fictional world. Siskel reviewed The Ref on his show with Roger Ebert and gave it a thumbs down, but he never mentioned the personal jab during the televised review. Whether this was professional courtesy or he simply didn't think it was worth addressing on air, Siskel kept his criticism focused on the film itself rather than making it about himself. Fact 3. J.K. Simmons' film debut. Long before J.K. Simmons became famous as the hot-headed newspaper editor J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man films, or won an Academy Award for his terrifying music teacher in Whiplash, he made his theatrical film debut in The Ref as the unfortunate Colonel Siskel. At the time of filming, Simmons was primarily known for his work on Broadway and television, particularly his recurring role as psychiatrist Dr. Emil Skoda in the Law & Order franchise, which began that same year in 1994. Being cast in The Ref gave Simmons his first opportunity to appear on the big screen. His character, the blackmailed military academy officer, doesn't have a huge amount of screen time, but he makes the most of it. Colonel Siskel is portrayed as a weak-willed authority figure who has been caught in a compromising situation with topless dancers, and the teenage character Jesse uses photographs of the incident to extort money from him. The role required Simmons to play pathetic and desperate, which is quite different from the intimidating, larger-than-life characters he would later become famous for portraying. Simmons was 39 years old when he made his film debut, which is relatively late for an actor to break into movies. However, his background in theater gave him the skills and presence to make even a small role memorable. The Ref opened in March of 1994, and while the film wasn't a box office success, it launched Simmons' movie career. Within 8 years, he would land the role that would define him for millions of fans, J. Jonah Jameson in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, released in 2002. That role, along with his Oscar-winning performance in Whiplash years later, proved that his late start in films didn't matter at all. Fact 4. B.D. Wong went uncredited. One of the most memorable scenes in The Ref is the opening sequence, where married couple Lloyd and Caroline sit in marriage, counseling on Christmas Eve, trading brutal insults while their therapist tries desperately to maintain professional composure. The overwhelmed marriage counselor, Dr. Wong, is played by B.D. Wong, who was already well known for his Tony Award-winning performance in M. Butterfly on Broadway. However, if you check the credits for The Ref, you won't find Wong's name anywhere. He appears in the film completely uncredited. This is particularly strange because the opening scene is crucial to establishing the dynamic between Kevin Spacey and Judy Davis as the bickering couple. Dr. Wong serves as the audience's introduction to just how dysfunctional Lloyd and Caroline are. He sits there professionally trying to mediate while Caroline describes a disturbing dream involving her husband's head on a plate of spinach with his private parts sticking out of his ear as garnish. Wong's reactions and attempts to keep the session on track provide both comedy and context. The character is also important to the plot because Gus, the burglar played by Denis Leary, later impersonates Dr. Wong when the family arrives for Christmas dinner, pretending to be their marriage counselor as part of experimental therapy. Without the opening scene establishing the real Dr. Wong, that plot point wouldn't work as well. So why did Wong go uncredited? Sometimes actors choose not to be credited for various reasons, such as small role size, scheduling conflicts, or contractual obligations to other projects. In Wong's case, the specific reason remains unclear, but the result is that many viewers over the years have watched the film without realizing they were seeing the future star of Jurassic Park and Law and Order Special Victims Unit in one of his earliest film roles. Fact 5. Christmas movie released in March. Disney made one of the most baffling marketing decisions in holiday movie history when they decided to release The Ref, a film entirely set on Christmas Eve and filled with Christmas themes on March 11, 1994. This wasn't a slight miscalculation. March is about as far from the holiday season as you can get. The decision infuriated star Denis Leary, who blamed the studio's marketing strategy for the film's box office failure. The movie opened at number 4 during its opening weekend, earning just over $3 million. It was beaten by Guarding Tess, Lightning Jack, and Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. By the end of its theatrical run, The Ref had grossed only $11,439,193 domestically against an $11 million budget. That's essentially breaking even before marketing costs. Leary was vocal about his frustration, telling reporters that Disney marketed him like the MTV guy, referring to his popular MTV commercials directed by Ted Demme. He said the studio shortchanged what the movie was actually about. The marketing focused heavily on Leary's stand-up comedy persona, rather than the film's sharp script and dramatic performances from Kevin Spacey and Judy Davis. But the release date was perhaps the biggest problem. Christmas movies rely on holiday atmosphere and seasonal viewing habits. Releasing The Ref in March meant it couldn't capitalize on the Christmas movie market at all. The widest release the film achieved was 861 theaters, which is quite limited compared to major releases. Imagine trying to sell a dark comedy about a dysfunctional family's Christmas Eve to audiences when stores are selling Easter candy and everyone's thinking about spring break. The film later found its audience through home video and cable television airings during the holiday season, eventually becoming a cult classic alternative Christmas movie. But it never had a fair chance in theaters. Fact 6. Australian accent perfection. Judy Davis faced a significant challenge when she was cast in The Ref. She's Australian, born in Perth, and needed to play an upper-class Connecticut woman with the specific accent and mannerisms of East Coast American gentility. This wasn't just about sounding American. It required capturing the particular way wealthy New England women speak, with all the subtle class markers and regional characteristics that define that specific demographic. Davis nailed it so completely that critics and audiences were stunned. Jeff Shannon of the Seattle Times wrote that Davis, the Australian, was simply uncanny in her command of East Coast gentility combined with razor-sharp timing and comedic expression. He called her the finest actress around, bar none. Other critics similarly praised her ability to completely disappear into the role of Caroline, never once slipping or showing any hint of her natural Australian accent. What makes this achievement even more impressive is that Davis was primarily known for dramatic roles, not comedy. She had been nominated for an Academy Award 2 years earlier for her brittle and brilliant turn in Woody Allen's Husbands and Wives, playing another bitter, sharp-tongued character. But comedy requires different timing and energy than drama, and adding accent work on top of that makes the performance exponentially more difficult. Davis had to deliver rapid-fire arguments with Kevin Spacey's character Lloyd, trading insults and complaints at a blistering pace while maintaining both the accent and the comedic timing. The role required her to be simultaneously funny and genuinely anguished, showing the real pain beneath the constant bickering. She had to make audiences believe this was a real Connecticut woman trapped in a miserable marriage, not an Australian actress playing a part. The fact that she pulled it off so seamlessly that many viewers probably never even knew she wasn't American is a testament to her extraordinary skill as an actress. Fact 7. The script born from marital argument. The Ref began with a real fight between two married people in 1989. Marie Weiss and her husband had recently moved from New York to California, and like many couples dealing with the stress of relocation, they found themselves in an argument. But instead of just fighting, Weiss had a revelation during the conflict. She thought to herself, wouldn't it be great if there were a third party to step in and referee? That single thought during a marital dispute became the seed that grew into the entire screenplay. Weiss began writing drafts of a script about a burglar who accidentally becomes a marriage counselor to a bickering couple. She worked on the project for a couple of years, developing the characters and story. By 1991, she consulted with her brother-in-law, Richard LaGravenese, who had just been nominated for an Oscar for writing The Fisher King. LaGravenese started offering notes and helping shape the script. The family connection between the two writers also influenced the story itself. LaGravenese said that both he and Weiss are Italian Catholics who married into Jewish families, so they both had personal experience with those big holiday dinners where different family cultures and traditions collide. This real-life experience informed the chaotic Christmas Eve dinner scenes in the film, where family tensions explode around the table. The script captured something authentic about family dysfunction precisely because it came from real experiences and observations. Weiss wasn't just imagining what a terrible family dinner might look like. She was drawing from the kinds of holiday gatherings where relatives argue, old resentments surface, and everyone leaves exhausted. The idea of a criminal being forced to mediate these conflicts added the absurdist comedy element, but the underlying family dynamics were rooted in reality. That combination of authentic observation and darkly comic premise is what made the script strong enough to sell to Disney. Fact 8. 20-minute studio approval. Getting a movie greenlit by a major studio is usually an exhausting process involving multiple meetings, script revisions, budget negotiations, and endless waiting. Projects can languish in development for years while executives deliberate. But when Marie Weiss and Richard LaGravenese pitched The Ref to Disney's Touchstone Pictures division in 1991, something unusual happened. The studio approved the project within 20 minutes. 20 minutes! That's barely enough time to properly pitch a movie, let alone make a major financial decision. The speed of the approval suggests the pitch was incredibly strong, and the executives immediately understood the film's potential. LaGravenese's recent Oscar nomination for The Fisher King certainly helped. Studios pay attention when an Oscar-nominated screenwriter brings them a project. But even with that pedigree, a 20-minute approval is remarkably fast. However, Disney's enthusiasm came with a catch. The studio told them that if there were serious notes in the script that required major revisions, it would be LaGravenese's responsibility to do the rewriting, not Weiss. This made sense from the studio's perspective since LaGravenese was the more experienced screenwriter. What they probably didn't anticipate was just how many notes they would have. LaGravenese ended up spending an entire year revising the script, working through Disney's seemingly endless stream of executive notes and requests. He later said he finally got tired of doing rewrites for executives and walked away from the project. The script then sat on a shelf for almost another year until director Ted Dem and comedian Dennis Leary came across it and decided they wanted to make it. Their involvement brought LaGravenese back to the project. So while the initial approval was lightning fast, the path from pitch to production still took several years and countless revisions. The 20-minute greenlight turned out to be just the beginning of a long development process. Fact 9. Test audience killed original ending. The Ref that audiences saw in theaters is not the version director Ted Dem originally shot. The film's ending was completely rewritten and reshot in January of 1994 after test audiences responded poorly to the original conclusion. In the original version, the burglar Gus turns himself in to the police to teach Jesse, the teenage son, an important lesson that a life of crime leads nowhere quickly. This was meant to be a more serious, moralistic ending that showed Gus taking responsibility for his actions and trying to prevent Jesse from following a criminal path. But test audiences hated it. The negative reactions were strong enough that the studio decided to reshoot the entire ending just months before the film's release. The new ending shows Gus escaping dressed as Santa Claus with help from Lloyd, who has a change of heart and decides he can't spend his life sending everyone he cares about to prison. Meanwhile, Lloyd and Caroline reconcile after finally airing out their differences throughout the evening. It's a lighter, more comedic conclusion that fits better with the film's dark comedy tone. Interestingly, director Ted Dem later admitted he regretted making the change. He felt the original ending was stronger and more honest to the story they were telling. But studios listen to test audiences, and when preview screenings show consistent negative reactions to a film's ending, they almost always demand changes. Reshoots are expensive and complicated, especially when you have to reassemble the entire cast and crew months after principal photography wrapped. The January 1994 reshoots happened very close to the March 11th release date, which didn't leave much time for editing and post-production on the new footage. Despite Demy's misgivings, the revised ending likely did make the film more commercially appealing, even if it didn't ultimately save it from box office disappointment. Fact 10. Filmed in Canada for Connecticut. The Ref takes place in a wealthy Connecticut suburb during Christmas, with colonial houses, quaint downtown streets, and that specific New England atmosphere. But not a single frame was actually filmed in Connecticut. The entire production was shot in Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario, Canada. This charming town near the Canadian border provided the picturesque winter scenery the filmmakers needed, and filming in Canada offered significant financial benefits. However, director Ted Dem was meticulous about maintaining Connecticut authenticity despite the Canadian location. The production design team went to impressive lengths to make sure the setting felt genuinely like Connecticut. They used authentic Connecticut Yellow Pages phone books in scenes where phone books appeared. The payphones featured SNET branding, which was the Southern New England Telecommunications Company that served Connecticut. These small details that most viewers would never consciously notice helped sell the illusion that the film really took place where it claimed to. One reviewer who paid close attention noted that even the area code shown was 203, which is actually a Connecticut area code. Demi's attention to these details earned praise from Connecticut natives who appreciated the effort. One reviewer gave the film major points for authenticity despite knowing it was filmed in Ontario. The colonial architecture of Niagara-on-the-Lake naturally resembled wealthy New England towns, which made it easier to maintain the deception. The town's historic buildings and tree-lined streets provided the upper-class suburban atmosphere the script required. Filming during winter ensured the Christmas setting looked appropriately cold and snowy. Ironically, Niagara-on-the-Lake is described as having a weirdly Disney-esque beauty at Christmas, with its picture-perfect holiday decorations and charming streets. So, while the location wasn't Connecticut, it provided the idealized version of a Connecticut Christmas that the film needed. The Canadian location also meant the production could take advantage of favorable exchange rates and tax incentives that made the $11 million budget stretch further. Fact 11. Denis Leary's three-picture Disney deal. Denis Leary signed a three-picture deal with Disney, and The Ref was the first film under that contract. This arrangement seems bizarre when you consider what The Ref actually is. It's a hard R-rated comedy filled with profanity, sexual references, and bitter family dysfunction. The film includes lines like, "Mary, gag your grandma," and features a dream sequence involving a man's private parts used as garnish on a plate. This is not typical Disney family entertainment. Even under the Touchstone Pictures banner, which Disney used for more adult-oriented films, The Ref pushed boundaries with its language and dark humor. The movie earned its R rating honestly. So why would Disney sign Leary to a three-picture deal knowing his comedy style was abrasive and profane? In the early 1990s, Leary was everywhere. His MTV commercials, directed by Ted Demi, had made him famous for his rapid-fire rants and chain-smoking tough guy persona. He had a hit comedy album and HBO special called No Cure for Cancer. His song called Asshole was actually getting radio play. He was seen as the next big comic who could transition to film stardom, following the path of Eddie Murphy or Robin Williams. Disney wanted to capitalize on his popularity and essentially bet that Leary could become a major movie star. The three-picture deal was meant to establish him as a leading man. However, The Ref's box office failure complicated those plans. The film grossed only slightly more than its budget, which meant it lost money once marketing costs were factored in. While Leary would continue working in film and television, becoming successful with the TV series Rescue Me years later, he never became the movie star Disney hoped he would be. What other two films were part of that three-picture deal remains unclear, as Disney's plans for Leary seem to have changed after The Ref disappointed commercially. Fact 12. Action producer's odd choice. When you hear the names Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer, you think of explosions, car chases, and massive action set pieces. This legendary producing duo was responsible for some of the biggest blockbusters of the 1980s, including Flashdance, Beverly Hills Cop, Top Gun, and Beverly Hills Cop 2. They were known for high-concept, high-octane films that dominated the box office. So it's genuinely bizarre that they chose to executive produce The Ref, a low-budget, dialogue-heavy dark comedy about a dysfunctional family's Christmas dinner. There are no explosions in The Ref, no car chases, no major action sequences. The film takes place almost entirely in one house during one night. Its budget was $11 million, which was tiny compared to the massive productions Simpson and Bruckheimer usually oversaw. The film's violence consists of people arguing and one character getting bitten by a dog. Executive producer Don Simpson described the overall tone of The Ref as biting and sarcastic, adding, "Just my nature." That quote suggests Simpson personally connected with the film's cynical humor despite it being completely different from his usual projects. By 1991, Simpson and Bruckheimer had signed a deal with Disney after parting ways with Paramount Pictures. The Ref was their first production under that Disney deal. Perhaps they wanted to prove they could succeed with different types of films, or maybe they genuinely loved the script and saw potential in Denis Leary as a star. Unfortunately, The Ref was a financial disappointment, which must have been frustrating for producers used to massive hits. However, Simpson and Bruckheimer bounced back quickly. Their next films for Disney included Bad Boys, Crimson Tide, and Dangerous Minds, all released in 1995, which returned them to commercial success. The Ref remains an odd footnote in their filmography, a strange departure that didn't work out, but also didn't damage their careers. Fact 13. Director Ted Demme's famous uncle. Director Ted Demme came from Hollywood royalty, though he worked hard to establish his own career rather than coasting on family connections. He was the nephew of Jonathan Demme, the Oscar-winning director of Silence of the Lambs, Philadelphia, and Married to the Mob. Jonathan Demme was one of the most respected filmmakers in Hollywood, which meant Ted grew up with connections to the industry, but also had to prove himself beyond being Jonathan Demme's nephew. Ted started at the bottom, working as a production assistant at MTV before creating the influential hip-hop show Yo MTV Raps. He directed music videos and Denis Leary's MTV commercials before moving into feature films. The Ref was his second theatrical film, following Who's the Man in 1993. Despite the family connection, Ted developed his own distinct style. While Jonathan Demme often made character-driven dramas with social commentary, Ted gravitated toward edgier material and worked frequently with Denis Leary. Their collaboration included Leary's stand-up specials No Cure for Cancer and Lock and Load, as well as the films Who's the Man, The Ref, and Monument Avenue. Ted Demme's career was tragically cut short when he died of a heart attack on January 13, 2002, at just 38 years old. He collapsed while playing in a celebrity basketball game in Los Angeles. His death was later determined to be caused by cocaine use, which was particularly tragic given that his final film, Blow, was about cocaine smuggler George Jung. Jonathan Demme honored his nephew's memory by dedicating his 2002 film, The Truth About Charlie, to Ted. At the 2002 Golden Globe Awards, just 1 week after Ted's death, Kevin Spacey wore a picture of Demme on his suit jacket as a tribute. The Academy Awards also included Ted in their In Memoriam segment, with Kevin Spacey presenting. Ted Demme never got to fulfill his potential as a director, but The Ref remains one of his most enduring films. Fact 14. The disappearing tie trick movie continuity errors are common, but The Ref contains one that's particularly noticeable once you spot it. When Gus prepares to impersonate the marriage counselor Dr. Wong for the arriving family members, he puts on one of Lloyd's suits. In the scene where he straightens his outfit and says, "Tell me about this doctor," his tie is solid black. But in the very next scene, with no explanation or time for him to change, the tie has transformed into a green and black striped pattern. The striped tie then remains for the rest of the movie. This isn't a subtle difference. The ties are completely different in both color and pattern. Black versus green and black stripes is not something that can be explained by lighting changes or camera angles. Somehow, between shots, wardrobe either accidentally gave Denis Leary a different tie or didn't notice the continuity error during filming. These mistakes usually happen when scenes are shot out of order and the continuity supervisor doesn't catch the discrepancy. Films rarely shoot chronologically. So maintaining perfect continuity requires careful attention to what actors wore, how their hair looked, and what props appeared in each scene. In this case, someone either dressed Leary in the wrong tie for the second scene, or the scenes were filmed on different days with different wardrobe choices. During editing, nobody caught the error before the film was released. Continuity errors like this are often invisible to viewers watching the film at normal speed, but once someone points them out, they become impossible to unsee. The tie error in The Ref is now documented on multiple movie mistake websites, where eagle-eyed fans catalog these kinds of goofs. It's a reminder that even professional film productions with experienced crews can let obvious mistakes slip through. Fact 15. Connecticut County Prosecutor Impossibility. The ref contains a legal impossibility that Connecticut natives would immediately recognize. Throughout the film, characters repeatedly mention the county prosecutor. This official plays a role in the plot as law enforcement discusses legal consequences and jurisdiction. There's just one problem. Connecticut doesn't have county prosecutors because Connecticut doesn't have functional county governments. The state dissolved all county-level governments in 1960. Counties still exist as geographic designations in Connecticut. You can say you live in Fairfield County or New Haven County, but they have no governmental authority, no county commissioners, no county services, and therefore no county prosecutors. All prosecutorial functions are handled at the state level by state's attorneys in Connecticut, not county prosecutors. This means every reference to a county prosecutor in the ref is legally inaccurate for the film's Connecticut setting. This kind of mistake happens when writers don't research the specific legal structures of the states where their stories take place. Most states do have county prosecutors, so it's an easy assumption to make. But Connecticut's unusual system makes the error glaring to anyone familiar with how Connecticut government actually works. One reviewer who caught this mistake noted it explicitly, pointing out that Connecticut's dissolution of county governments decades earlier made the entire concept impossible. The error doesn't affect the plot significantly, since most viewers wouldn't know about Connecticut's unique governmental structure. But it's the kind of detail that breaks immersion for people from Connecticut watching the film. It's particularly ironic given how much effort director Ted Demme put into making the setting feel authentically Connecticut with correct phone books and area codes, only to have the script include references to a government position that doesn't exist in the state.